You're about to see something priceless. Joe Rogan just took the kid gloves off and went straight after The View and Whoopi Goldberg for their mind-numbing political takes. I think this is a clip where we see Joe's truest feelings and opinions boil over, and that's what makes it a treat to watch. We're going to dissect a lot of what Whoopi said that started it all in a video that we actually covered before, Joe, so let's jump right into it.
Do you see what Whoopi Goldberg said?
What'd she say?
Whoopi Goldberg said that Biden could arrest all the Republicans and put them in jail. You just need to see how unhinged this kind of thinking is. Well, you know what Joe Biden could do? Joe Biden, you have to see it because it's so
on TV.
crazy.
She said
on television.
You know what Joe Biden could do since he is presently president?
What?
Whoa. He could throw every Republican in jail.
Yeah.
I mean, he could. I mean, no. This is not
Because
a
he
good
would be
thing.
immune.
Because he'd have total. He could go. What this means is he could do anything.
Did you see her literally pick up a piece of paper to read that from it? Whoever's writing that for her needs to be fired. And it's hard to blame Joe Rogan for that reaction. The fact is, someone that can even think or say something as outlandish as that shows their ceiling of political acumen. And in the case of Whoopi Goldberg, it's truly incredible that you'd spout off an insane idea like that on national TV with a confidence that's almost deceiving. Just for a bit of context, these remarks by Whoopi Goldberg were made just a couple weeks ago when the Supreme Court decided to take up Donald Trump's presidential immunity plea and schedule it for a hearing. And then Whoopi Goldberg somehow constructed presidential immunity as some kind of superpower that makes you untouchable. Predictably, she's got a lot of people trolling her for that comment, but you know why? It's not because no one has made a dumb political comment before, it's because of what it reveals about the true intellectual caliber of the panel itself. I mean, the show has clearly been on air for nearly 2.5 decades and still averages views in the millions for every episode, and yet all you find on the show are ideas and opinions that would hardly even qualify for a casual political discussion in the drawing room, let alone on national television. Now remember, Joe Rogan and The View have a history of friction between them, especially during the pandemic, with Joe Rogan supposedly taking a horse dewormer for the treatment. This is the first time that Joe has shot back since then.
She says that so confidently. Like, if you're willing to let Donald Trump use presidential immunity, that means Joe Biden could just go crazy and arrest all the Republicans. Because that's what that means. No, that's not what that means, even a little bit.
Yeah.
Like,
no,
you just added a whole bunch of stuff to what that means.
I mean, in fairness, though, I mean, The View has to be, if you average out The View hosts, among the dumbest people on television. And so it's like they say the thing that people are thinking, but they say it very directly, so they expose whatever truth. But
I don't think some of them are dumb.
You don't think so?
No, I don't think Sunny Hostin's
You think it's deliberate?
I think she's ideologically driven, and they have blinders on, for sure.
It's hard to argue with that. I mean, for example, Whoopi Goldberg is that same person that seems to see a race element in every inequality and injustice, except for what happened to the Jewish people in World War II, because she thinks it was, quote, not about race. And beside her sits Joy Behar with a knack for painting people with opposing views in the worst possible color, making remarks like Republicans would vote against babies for their politics, keeping in mind Republicans are the pro-life ones, they don't want abortion. And looking at that larger backdrop, you see how Whoopi's statement on presidential immunity fits neatly into a whole bag of other bad political takes from the show. They've gotten into trouble for it occasionally, though. This is the first time that Joe Rogan himself, who by the way is a significantly larger platform than them with 11 million listeners per episode, has taken names and gone after The View. However, there's a long history of Whoopi Goldberg and Joy Behar criticizing and misrepresenting Joe Rogan's stances, most likely just following the tone set by CNN after their infamous spat with Joe Rogan over ivermectin. Just watch this.
Artists like Joni Mitchell joined the boycott of Spotify for letting Joe Rogan invite guests on his podcast who push COVID misinformation. Again, where is the line? And is it censorship when the information is potentially harmful to people? Right. Is that when you know that, what do you do? How do you balance it out?
Well, the company is putting in a disclaimer. That's how they're handling it. Mm-hmm. But I would think that with something that's on audio, you can fast forward through that easily. I wonder how many people even hear that.
11 million people.
Yeah,
He's got 11 million listeners to
He
his,
does.
to his podcast.
Hasn't he been also chastised and corrected, and then he just goes back to his craziness again? I mean, I don't know that he can be reformed.
I'm so used to seeing these people who lie and misinform and spread conspiracy theories double down.
Yes.
You know what? I actually think that we should seek out ways in which we're wrong. And in that case, even if you disagree with the view, you could use it as the devil's advocate to hear the opposite opinion of your own. And yet, I don't think they even do that properly, because the panel can hardly solidify and steelman the positions that they stand for. Despite that, the show still hobbles along and survives on mainstream television. A quick look at the show's ratings demographic reveals how it's quickly losing favor with a young American audience, instead largely only remaining relevant to an audience over the age of 55. Statistics reveal how just around 320,000 of the show listeners, over 2.5 million regular viewers, are under the age of 55. It certainly reveals a dangerous trend for The View that risks being phased out over time as younger Americans just don't resonate with the same old, predictable, and uninteresting political takes. All the while, internet-based media platforms like Joe Rogan are meeting the younger population where they are, which is the online world. Instances like Whoopi Goldberg or the rest of the panel making headlines for all the wrong reasons certainly does not bid well for regaining their lost traction with the younger audience. Right now, it seems like The View's audience is only part of a shrinking pool of population, though it may still be large enough in the millions. But their trajectory is far from being encouraging if the show plans to continue another 2 decades.
Whoopi is certainly not the brightest person. And what she just said just doesn't make any sense. It's just like so silly to say. It's not a well thought out. It's like if you had an idea for a premise and it was totally baked and half baked and you went on stage with it and it's nothing
Just
there.
go for it. Yeah.
Yeah, there's nothing there. Sometimes comics do that.
The other question is then, is that representative of a big constituency? I think probably yes.
Well, a lot of people...
MSNBC viewers are probably also thinking,
I don't even think the MSNBC viewers. I think
that's
they're a
too
little
far.
bit more sophisticated than that.
Yeah.
This is like low information, blue no matter who, like older housewives who are mad at the world. That's the appeal that Whoopi Goldberg has.
That's a blunt way to put it, but looking at the surface level stats, you do see how The View is still predominant in households and has a higher proportion of an older female audience. That doesn't say anything about the audience, but it does shed light on how The View falls short of serving them intelligent political commentary. Perhaps it's time for fresh voices on the show and more diverse views on The View. Switch up the panel, allow the audience to chime in, and start competing for the attention of a younger audience that has more than enough alternatives to choose from. That's advice for the show's producers that they need to heed before The View fades into the abyss of TV history.